Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. It is Thursday, May the 5th. Ian Cameron, and we have Brett McLean back with us once again to break down the Stanley Cup playoffs. Actually, Brett's first time with us during the playoffs. You can follow him on Twitter at MacAttack_39. Good to have Brett back. Brett, how are you? How are things with you, and how have you enjoyed the first few nights of the playoffs so far?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to be back. I'm doing well. Can't complain. Always nice when we have a chance to talk hockey. First couple nights they've gone, I would say, how I expected them to. From a betting perspective, it's been tough. We were talking about that offline. Like, to try and find value, you've got to get creative. But I think if you would have asked me how it would go, I think Leafs Tampa, you would expect a split. Blues Wild a split. So obviously, if you're trying to, hopefully you pick the right night on making the money off the Blues and Lightning as underdogs. And Colorado first game kind of where you expected it to go. So we'll see how tonight goes. But I would say for the most part, the playoffs have been exciting to watch, but pretty predictable, which is nice to see.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We'll do a little recap of last night, as we always do, in just a couple minutes. And then, of course, get into the 4 games tonight. Again, 4 more Game 2 matchups in the first round to preview and analyze tonight, sides, totals, and player props from a betting perspective. But before we get into that, we haven't had actually a chance to ask Brett yet, since he's been on with us a few times, about the work he does. Teaching hockey to the youth, trying to make it so that he's basically one of the people that's going to lead to the next generation of star hockey players, we hope, across the board. He works at the Hill Academy teaching youth hockey. And Brett, tell us about the work that you've been doing there. I'm sure it's something you enjoy.
Yeah, so it's a private prep school just outside of Toronto. Our focus is on mixing academics and athletics, particularly hockey and lacrosse. So I oversee our hockey program, run our skill development program. We have grades 5 to 12, and I've been very fortunate to work with some really good players over the past few years, such as Cole Perfetti, Shane Wright, who's going to the draft this year, Brant Clark, Michael Buchinger is going to get drafted this year. So we've had some amazing players come through the school. And with what my career ended up being, I was lucky enough to play in the National Hockey League, played in the Ontario Hockey League, went up through it. So just with it being cut short, I wanted to stay in hockey. And this was a perfect opportunity for me to, I guess, try and influence and guide the young talent of today, and hopefully set them on a good path and prepare them on the ice and off the ice to have success. And it's been really rewarding to watch these kids leave the school and be so successful at the next level. And pretty fortunate that I get to stay in hockey, because once you're done playing, there's a lot of people that move on to something else, and there's nothing quite like being in hockey. So pretty thankful that I have this opportunity, and great place to work.
Yeah, no question about that. It's that sense of, you feel you contributed to someone developing, and not only in hockey, but in life, right? That life development that they have too, that you were a part of that. It's a pretty cool feeling, no doubt. Now, when they leave the school and they get picked up, they go to mostly is it usually a junior league they end up going to?
Yeah, I mean, for everyone, it's different. We have students that have gone on to the NCAA. We have students that play in the OHL. So it really depends on what their path is. Our goal is just to prepare them for whatever path they want to take, whether that's playing junior hockey in the United States, in the USHL or the NAHL, or whether it's playing junior hockey in Canada in the BCHL or playing in the OHL. Just trying to give them as many opportunities as they can, giving them exposure to the different leagues that are out there, and as much information as we can, so that they're prepared to make the right decision for them. And obviously, our really elite players have been lucky enough to go on to the National Hockey League. So it is a really special place. I mean, I wasn't fortunate enough to have somewhere like that when I grew up. So the kids are pretty lucky, but it's a great group of kids that are wanting to learn, wanting to get better. And, it's a lot of fun every day trying to teach them something.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of those names, like Cole Perfetti's probably going to have a nice career, and you saw him go through the Hill Academy where you're teaching right now. You mentioned Shane Wright. Now, Shane Wright's going to have a boatload of expectations, and people are going to want to see him, just be amazing right away. And as we see with Lafreniere, maybe chill out, let him develop a little bit. But you've seen him up close and personal, Shane Wright, just the high level ability, skill, and that he's got. Do you think he's got that high ceiling that it seems everybody thinks for him?
Yeah, I mean, he's an amazing individual. I've known him for 5 years now. He's good. He's a high character guy. Phenomenal talent. I mean, the amount of pressure that's been on him his entire life, and kind of the weight of being the next one, you wouldn't know it from talking to him. Do I think he's going to be McDavid and score 130 points? Probably not.
No.
But but
Let's
I
lower
do.
the bar a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I see him as, and I mean, this is obviously, putting a lot of expectation on him, is an NHL captain that leads his team to success. That's the kind of kid he is. He's a great leader. You even look at him in Kingston this year, like not top scorer, but he's the guy that his engine is what runs that team, and he does everything well. I think he's kind of a Patrice Bergeron clone, which I don't think, if you look at that as a career, no one's saying that's a bad thing. So, will he score more than Bergeron? I'm not sure, but that's kind of where I see him, is that amazing two-way player that leads a team. And like I said, amazing character kid that someone will be very lucky to have in the draft.
There you go. That's high praise right there. Character and that two-way ability. Andrew
And
McGinnis
you notice
joining us,
right now, I was
Brian.
going to
Welcome
say,
in.
you notice right now, it's great to be here with both of you. You notice in the NHL lately, especially when we get into the playoffs, those two-way players and the players that hold themselves responsible are second to none. I mean, the pressure that's on, right, like you mentioned and everything, but that's what happens to every player that is so highly talked about. He's been talked about for years, but I'm happy to hear that, from you, Brett, that it sounds to me, for everything I've heard about him, is that he is a two-way player and responsible. And as a Montreal Canadiens fan, people talk about Nick Suzuki's stats all the time offensively. But I feel like even last year in the playoffs, it was kind of, under talked about how two-way responsible he is. And I think it's a huge part of the game for those guys.
Yeah, definitely. And you look at the advancement of the Leafs this year and their ability to possibly get through Tampa. Like, a lot of that comes through Matthews' two-way game and how much it's improved over the last couple of years, and Marner's two-way game and how much they've become players away from the puck and added that new element to their game. Like, without that, you're sitting here saying there's no chance they're going to beat Tampa. But with those two doing that now, you're like, this is going to be a great series, and they might be able to come out on top.
Yeah. Obviously he's got the potential, and I know Montreal. There's that potential that Shane Wright's landing there in just a month or so, 2 months from now. No question about that. When you think about it, you've got the chance to see Shane Wright #1 overall this year, and then Connor Bedard next year, likely going to be going #1. You talk about two players with such a high level of potential ahead of them in their futures. Pretty amazing to see it and think about it. No question.
I want,
All right.
Ian, you mind if I ask a quick
Go
question to Brett here?
Yeah, of course.
So people talk about Lafreniere, and I watched him play junior here in the East Coast in the Q, and people talk about these bottom players, right? You could get drafted to the worst team in the league, right? Like let's say Wright goes to the Coyotes next year, right? I mean, you're going to stick out more on the Coyotes than if you get drafted to, Tampa Bay Lightning next year. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but just theoretically here, one thing that bothers me as just a hockey fan and someone that follows the game so closely is that you look at Lafreniere on the New York Rangers, he's on the third line, and he's a two-way player. He's a guy that they trust to be a little physical. It bothers me that people don't realize that he's on a really skilled team, where if you slotted him in on a bottom 5 team, he's a top 6 player and scoring way more goals. What are your thoughts on that? Because to me, I understand that like you got to score wherever you are and everything like that, but it bugs me the expectations that are on people because you're farther down the depth chart. It's like a talented wide receiver on a really great football team is going to get less targets than he would, on a bottom team.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is the game is becoming so much younger, and we're seeing a lot of young guys come in and have instant success. So when someone that's a first or second overall pick comes in and they don't, offensively, we go, oh, that guy wasn't a great pick. But, if you look, even Nathan McKinnon, like, he didn't start off setting the league on fire either. It took him a couple years to adjust. I think, hockey's a different sport from, basketball or football, because a lot of guys don't go to college. So you're looking at 18, 19-year-olds that you're expecting to come in and be superstars, and that just doesn't always happen. Like, I think for a guy like Lafreniere, you're waiting until he's 25 or 26 to really make a decision on, was he the best pick at that age or for that draft, or was he not? But we don't want to be patient. We want results instantly, and we've been spoiled in the game. I mean, McDavid, Draisaitl, Makar, and like all these guys, they come in and they dominate year one, right? So we're like, well, why is this guy not doing it? And if he doesn't do it, then we're like, he's a bad pick. And it's just kind of the way it works. Like, maybe it's going to take him 5 or 6 years to fully develop and establish himself as a star. And like I said, I think when he's 25, you'll have a good indication of where he's actually at. And hopefully the Rangers are patient with him, because we've seen that in the past too, where teams give up on a guy too early and they go on to be Hall of Famers somewhere else. So, I do agree with you. It is tough to see people already all over him. Like, he's barely 20 years old, and we're just seeing him just get started here. So I think you got to give him a few more years before you can count him one way or the other.
Yeah, if you're a level-headed hockey fan and observer, you do give him that time. If you're someone on Twitter, many people on Twitter that have said he's a bust already, and they're just totally impatient, they would think otherwise. And it's, to me, an insane opinion to have, that all of a sudden we're going to see where you think that it's not redeemable at all for Alexis Lafreniere to be a big-time impact NHL player, which is nuts to me. But anyway, last night was a great night on the show, pretty much collectively across the board for the entire crew. I mean, I was 7-1 last night in the NHL. The only loss was Edmonton in the first period. And I'm not thinking about the 7. That's how silly I am mentally sometimes, and batty I am. Am I thinking about, wow, Ian, great night, lots of profit, 7-1, 7 wins? No, I'm thinking about the one loss. That's what I'm thinking about.
Of course, it's how we all are. It's how we're wired.
I'm thinking about, God damn it, Edmonton right away in the second period got that first goal. Why couldn't they have gotten that in the first period? But that's how we're wired. You're right. But other than that, no, it was a phenomenal night. The Tampa opinions came through. They answered the bell. The only concern I had for that was Toronto really looked good in game one, and was Tampa Bay maybe hitting a bit of a physical wall, all these playoff runs they've made back-to-back years. But sure enough, Tampa looked like Tampa again. Great response. And look, it's not anything that people are not aware of anymore. It's well publicized, well documented now that Andrei Vasilevsky is 15-0 now in his last 15 playoff games off a loss. So he has just been Mr. Bounce Back in net. And you could tell he was dialed in when he made that lightning-like, rapier-like glove save on Timothy Liljegren there in the second period. Just absolutely outstanding. He had a great night. He kept Tampa, ahead when they got that first goal. Toronto made a push, and then they allowed Tampa to gain separation, and they ended up tying up that series. We ended up seeing, of course, the Minnesota Wild meaning business. They put the boots to St. Louis early and never looked back. That was a sweep for me in that game as well, with the because I had the over and the 2 Tampa bets. We had Minnesota twice and the over in that game, so that was another terrific result. They ended up cruising to victory and tying up that series, which they had to do. Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, they carried the way. All the big guns stepped up for the Wild. They had to. Fleury was much better in net. And look, the penalty kill for the Wild was much better as well. And that was a big difference maker. We saw Carolina, the one team to not lose game 2 after winning game 1. Carolina up 2-0 on Boston. Brett, I don't know how much you saw this game, but Carolina to me just looks deeper. They look faster. And I know there's going to be people making a case for Boston in game 3. They're making the change, going to go with Jeremy Swayman in game 3. They already announced that desperation, this prideful team with Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak and company, they're not going to go down without a fight. I agree with that. But yeah, they could come out swinging in the first period, and then the better team just takes over and goes up 3-0. I really think we could see that in game 3. You see Antti Raanta get hurt. That's a shame, unfortunately, for Carolina. But the young kid, Pyotr Kochetkov, comes into the game last night and looks absolutely outstanding. He was fantastic. I can't believe how good he was, considering the situation, coming in off the bench in a playoff game. And he had to play a lot more minutes than Louis Domingue did in game 1 for the Penguins. And he shut the door against Boston. And how about the competitive blood flowing through the veins of Kochetkov. He's going toe-to-toe with Marchand there after Marchand bumped him, giving him a little whack. He didn't stand down to him. That's a guy that's been in the league for 10 years, has won a Stanley Cup. He's done a lot in this league, one of the better players.
He's also 3 times his size, though.
Yeah, he is, too. I mean, that's true. Kochetkov definitely with and he felt – I still like it. I mean, that's
for
Brad
sure.
Marchand, and I'm just, barely getting my feet wet in the National Hockey League. And I'm not going to let this guy take physical liberties with me. I'm going to, hack him with the stick and say, "Hey, Marchand, fuck you." You're not going to get away with, we're in Russian, whatever that is. It's probably what he was
Well,
thinking.
I got to ask, did
you can't speak a lick of English right now.
Did you see the quote from Rod the Bod? That was hilarious. Yeah. He goes, "Yeah, I told the interpreter, just go out, tell him to go out there and stop some pucks."
Yeah. You told Svechnikov, tell him stop the puck in Russian. Yeah. That's that's great. Yeah. Oh, but unbelievable performance by him too. And of course, the other game last night was Edmonton. Big bounce back. I knew they'd rally around Mike Smith. They did that, and they trucked the LA Kings 6-0 last night. Great game from everybody. All the Kane, McDavid, Draisaitl, all the big guns stepped up for the Oilers. And Mike Smith, I said this yesterday, Brett, on the show, that he made a horrible giveaway, horrible gaff with the puck in game 1, but he owned it. He said, "My bad. This is on me. Pin this loss on me. I can't make that play. I can't give that puck away in a tie game in the third period. It cost our team the game." Doesn't that go a long way in the dressing room? And I knew it last night. You're going to see him play better, and you're going to see that Oiler team really want to rally around him. He took it for the team. He knew he screwed up. He made that bad giveaway. And I knew after he took the bullet publicly admitting, "Hey, this is on me," that goes a long way with your teammates. Respect that he did that he stepped up. And I knew they were going to play their butts off for Mike Smith last night, and he played much better, and the Oilers rolled to a Game 2 win and tied up that series. So, Brett, what were your thoughts on the games last night?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Mike Smith thing, as a player, you know what you have back there. Like, the reality is he plays the puck more than any goalie in the league, and most of the time, it actually relieves a lot of pressure for his D-man. It's the right play. Understanding that, unfortunately, at some point he's going to make a mistake and it's going to be costly. So his players know that, you weigh the good with the bad, and hopefully that doesn't happen again. But to see him step up and take the blame, that goes a long way with his teammates. I believe before the series, Oilers were going to take this one. I don't think many people thought they're going to sweep. So, they're going to lose at some point. But the bounce back last night, I'd say they're heading into LA with all the momentum. They just looked like a better team last night. If they keep rolling like that, they're going to be fine. Carolina, Boston, I think the biggest problem with Boston is their power play is awful right now. It's been bad for a couple months. They just can't get any offense going. And I don't see them being able to go punch for punch with Carolina. Are they going to win a game at home? Probably one of them, because, the prideful team, they're not a bad team, but and it is hard to sweep in this league. So I think they probably get one, but that series, Carolina, if they keep rolling the way they are, they're going to run through that one. And then the other two, I mean, that's kind of what you expect, right? St. Louis, Minnesota, Toronto, Tampa, that they're going to go punch for punch all the way to game 6 or game 7. I mean, they're two great series that could go either way. Last night, Tampa took it to Toronto. Night 1, Toronto took it to Tampa. I felt like both teams played great when they won and were very average when they lost. So I think it's really going to come down to who can put together consistent effort each night. And then the other series, same thing. I mean, what we're seeing is the ebbs and flows of the momentum of playoffs. Like St. Louis game 1 just dominated Minnesota, and then last night roles completely reversed. So I think we're in for a real treat with the rest of the way for those two series is for sure. I think it's going to be exciting to watch, and all in all, it's been great hockey so far, and it's making it hard from a betting perspective you got to really dive into what you want to do and how you're going to try and make some money, because as we're seeing, it's pretty unpredictable, but it's exciting to watch.
It's unpredictable. And then when you want to back, like in several instances tonight, the team that lost game 1, who you're looking, and obviously they're favored, you got to lay a big price in a lot. Florida is a perfect example. You got to get creative with the Panthers. You've got to get creative with Colorado tonight on this card. There's no question about that. We'll get into the 4 games now. Just a second. I wanted to ask you, though, Brett, about the hit Everyone's going to talk about that a little bit. Not so much the Pasternak collision with Ronta, I think, was accidental. I think he just lost his footing, and then he ended up nicking Ronta, and he ended up getting injured by that. I don't think it was anything malicious there. But even the Lindholm hit, that was a clean hit, I thought, by Svechnikov on Hampus Lindholm last night. I have no problem with that. The only problem you have with it is obviously the unfortunate result of that hit for Hampus Lindholm, which has probably knocked him out for the rest of the series. Our own Jimmy Murphy here on the ice, guys, and that's why he's not here today. He's covering that series, and I think he's flying back to Boston today. He basically said that it's probably going to be out for the rest of the series for Hampus Lindholm, which means possibly out for the season, because Boston's in tough here to try to get back into this series and win it. Never say never, but doesn't look like Lindholm's coming back in the series. But to me, didn't look dirty at all. It looked like just a good, solid, clean hockey hit by Svechnikov, with just an unfortunate result in the injury to Lindholm. Did you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I watched it a few times. I don't see anything malicious with it. I think it's just a good hockey hit. Lindholm was just kind of in an unfortunate spot, and Svechnikov caught him with a good hit. Actually, I was listening to 32 Thoughts this morning, and they were mentioning Lindholm caught. So I can't remember who he caught, but 2 or 3 months ago, he caught someone with the exact same hit. It's just the nature of the game. Playoff time, intensity goes up, but I don't see there being any reason for any discipline on it. I don't think that, it's obviously going to ramp up the temperature of the series, along with, Ranta going down, even though that was accidental in my opinion too. Once bodies start getting hurt, it does elevate the intensity of the series. And so I would expect Boston to be coming out hard and heavy for game 3, but I don't see, I don't think there's anything malicious there or anything worth discipline.
No, I agree with that completely. It's just a clean hit, and sometimes you got to live with that. Just because the guy gets hurt doesn't mean the person that committed the hit should be suspended. And that's the way I feel. It was a good, clean hit by Svechnikov last night on Lindholm, with just an unfortunate result. All right, we've got tonight's games, Thursday, 4 games on tap. Let's get into them. Let's see if we can make some money. We got a big encore to try to follow up, because last night was just spectacular, and Danny Ehrman did a great job. Danny Ehrman says hi, Brett, by the way. He hopes you're doing well. But he did a really good job on the show yesterday. All right, here we go. Eastern Conference first round, game 2. Pittsburgh Penguins, New York Rangers. We've got the Rangers minus 160 now in this game as home favorites. 6 the total in this one. Obviously, there's been an adjustment, and you got to start putting these games in proper perspective here. Yeah, I like the Rangers to win and even up the series tonight, but man, minus 160. And I know there's issues with Pittsburgh. Obviously, they're down to number 3 goalie, Louis Domingue, with one of the quotes of the year, talking about the pork and the broccoli, eating that during the intermission. Obviously, he's eating that stuff, not knowing he's having to go into a hockey game, into a playoff overtime game. So it's hard to blame him, but that was hilarious. He's going to be starting tonight. Casey Smith is a no-go for the Pittsburgh Penguins in this game tonight. So Louis Domingue is in there. We'll see how he fares here now that he's got to play a full game. Now that the Rangers know he's the guy, and maybe can better, figure out tendencies and weaknesses. And that's definitely a factor for me tonight, when I think, the Rangers now are going to have a little bit better book now on Louis Domingue. And I think that's probably going to help them in this game. I like the Rangers, but what I'm going to do instead of, certainly regulation, I might have a small play on that. But I still think this is going to be a pretty close, tight series. I think even if the Rangers win, it could be a 1-goal game. It could be one of those series where you sprinkle on the draw in every game, quite honestly. You might make profit. You already have a draw winner at a great plus, 320 in game 1 if you took it between the Penguins and Rangers. I do think this is going to be a competitive series. I do like the Rangers here, but I think the team total might be the best way to go about it. It's 3.5 at a plus price. I think that's decent. I think we could see 4 from the Rangers tonight, get that offense rolling a little bit more. The full game total, it should be noted, is 6 after it was 5.5 in game 1. So I think that's a little bit of an adjustment based on the fact game 1 went over and the Louis Domingue situation that he now is confirmed as the starter. So they've adjusted the total by a half goal here in this one. But I think the best way to approach it for me is the Rangers team total here over 3.5 in this game. I'm sticking to my guns with the props on Lafreniere. I think he is still – I thought he was really good. I thought that whole line, even though they lost in overtime the other night, Lafreniere with Philip Hedl and Kako was outstanding. And remember, they had a goal taken off the board in the third period. Remember, that could have been the game-winning goal, the go-ahead goal for the Rangers. It was called back due to goalie interference. It was that line that made it happen for the Rangers in that game. So, I think Lafreniere is the value from a prop standpoint for the Rangers. I know you could go with Kreider, Zibanejad, Panarin, any of the big guns, and I wouldn't say don't bet those, but I would look for the greater value a little bit with Lafreniere moving forward. Here's the biggest thing the Rangers have to correct here in game 2, because I saw this stat. I couldn't believe it the other night. Do you know that when Sidney Crosby's line was on the ice in game 1, they were 26-4 at one point in scoring chances over the line for the Rangers that they were out against? And it doesn't shock me. It seemed every time Sidney Crosby and his line was on the ice for Pittsburgh in game 1 with Rust and Gensel, they were dangerous. They were flying and swarming around the Ranger net and Shesterkin, and the Rangers had a hard time keeping them away from the net and defending them. They've got to work on that. And Gerard Gallant's no dummy. He's a great coach. He knows that, I'm sure. And that's going to be an onus now. We've got to have much better defending because Crosby, Gensel, and Rust kind of had their way in game 1. That little pass, backhand pass that Crosby thread the needle on to Gensel for the 2-2 goal, how spectacular was that?
Their chemistry is unbelievable.
It is. It is absolutely incredible chemistry. See if the Rangers do a better job, because they've got to. That's their one path to losing this series. You let Crosby, Gensel, and Rust go haywire on you and do a tap dance all over you, you're going to end up being in trouble. So we'll see if the Rangers defend them better tonight. But I like Rangers and Reg a little bit. I like Rangers team total over 3.5 even more. And from a full game total standpoint, I probably would lean over, but 6, just a lukewarm opinion for me there. Andrew, let's start with you here. Game 2, Penguins Rangers.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. The only play I've made so far on this one, a little chalky, but I took Ryan Strome to record a point at -140. I don't like to go too high with those score point props, even though sometimes those guys are the ones that score to get them. But yeah, I think Strome's played a great two-way game. He's been heavily used by the Rangers, and young guy that can skate. So I think he'll be out there, get lots of ice time, and whether it's a goal or assist, I think he contributes. As far as the as far as the side goes, look, I had that East future on Pittsburgh, and I'll be just cheering them on tonight to try and take both at MSG. I will say to people at home, obviously it's a third stringer for Domingue, but let's not act like we didn't just see him play well when he came in after eating spicy pork and broccoli. I mean, he's still a great goaltender, and it's the same thing with Antti Ranta, and then we saw with the third stringer as well. You see in every single sport, the sky is not falling after an injury, and you see bettors always react to that a little bit too much, I think.
It's not chopped liver, Louis Domingue. In fact, he's way more experienced than Casey DeSmith, to be quite honest. Yeah, Louis Domingue's been around a very long time in the NHL, with Arizona for 3 years. Then he went to Tampa for a couple of years, split time with Jersey and Vancouver, was in Calgary briefly, and now here he is in Pittsburgh. So this is now, I think, his 5th or 6th team in the National Hockey League. And his overall career numbers, when you look at it so far, it looks like 3.1, 902 save. That's not great, but it's not terrible either. And he, in a situation like game 1, he came in a real tough spot and got it done, and he deserves credit for that. So we'll see now how he fares in game 2, knowing he is the guy starting the game start to finish tonight. Brett, what do you think here? Pittsburgh, New York.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, this is I don't have a whole lot at the moment. I think Rangers are going to win, so I have them on the money line. It's kind of a boring bet, but the only other one I'm thinking is Penguins under 0.5 goals in the first period. I think the Rangers are going to come out and be tight, checking. I don't see Pittsburgh scorings plus money. I think we're going to see them both kind of settle into a patient game here after playing 6 periods the other day. So I like that bet. And I like the Rangers to win on the money line. And for me right now, that's probably it. I think this is another game that I don't know if the series is. I think we'll see tonight whether Pittsburgh opens it up and runs away with it, or maybe with Domingue in that. I mean, I think he's a capable goalie, but you never know with the third string goalie where it's going to go. So Probably just going to watch this game as a fan more than have too many bets on it.
Plus 115, I'm seeing at a lot of books for Pittsburgh Penguins team total under 0.5. So not to score in the first period.
Yeah.
And you would think, what do they give up? 80 shots? Now, I know 3 overtimes, but still 80 shots. And even in after regulation, they had given up like 40 or almost 50.
Yeah,
That's
and I
just
think
way too much.
Shesterkin settled in. I think the question with him was how's he going to perform in the playoffs, different time of year, and he looks just like he did during the season. So I think there's no concerns there that he's going to fold under the pressure of the playoffs. So I think he's going to have a great night tonight, and I think I like I said, I think that's a great bet. I think there's a very good chance Pittsburgh doesn't score in the first, plus money. So why not?
Well, I think it's a cool prop from Brett there, and I think that looking at these situations where you see a team with 83 shots, the other team with I think like 67 or whatever it might have been, everybody thinks over. Let's go first period, full game. They're just going batshit crazy on overs the next game. These guys got to be tired. All the cliche gambling narratives. I always think that you get the best effort, I think, in the first period defensively, and then the fatigue, if it's going to set in, would be in the second or third period. So I like that quite a bit.
Yep.
And that's how I feel. So I think we could see a low-scoring first period. I was actually saying earlier on a different show that I actually plan on jumping in on a live over. Yep. If I can get 4.5 or even the 5.5 and get rid of the 6 would be really nice.
Or you get a really slow start like Boston, Carolina game 1, Andrew. It was no score, like 9 minutes left in the second. You get a nice 3.5 at plus 140. Man, was that a beautiful bet. And, of course, we know what happened. What did it end? 5-1, I believe, in that game. That was terrific. I mean, couldn't
good old-fashioned third period overs. I remember you always know, I'm not really a huge chalky type person, but there was a year, I think it was the bubble year 2 years ago, I was laying like minus 210s for third period overs because it was just so automatic. I was sacrificing the odds and taking over 1.5 and just like I was getting an empty net goal at least every game.
The third period, Brett, have you noticed that? I mean, this has been something we've talked about for years. I'll throw it to you. Have you considered that in your playoff bet? Now, if I know you said you've been at this for a year, basically from a betting standpoint, but just in playoff betting, third period overs. This has been a cash cow for us here on the Ice Guys. Andrew bets them. I bet them. Alex has bet them a lot. That just you bet these games, especially in elimination games, Brett, when the one team is facing elimination, they're trailing in the third. They've got to push it. They've got to open up, and they got to pull the goalie earlier than usual. And in a lot of times, you'll just see multiple goals, and they are great betting opportunities. Third period overs or live overs after the second period.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I even look at the Bruins-Canes game the other night, right? Like teams – you're playing to win every night now. And I mean, the season, obviously want to win every night, but there's just so much more that goes into it. Now you're just, you break everything down to one game at a time. And there is way more empty net goals or a team scores to tie it up because they pulled the goalie. So yeah, third period overs I haven't really thought about that, but it is a great option, especially, a game that's looking 3-2 or 4-2 heading into the third. Cause one team's going to be playing loose to try and catch up where, maybe in the season you're on the third and fourth night and you're like, okay, we just don't have it tonight. Like we're going to go down and take the L here where playoffs, you don't have that luxury. So yeah, it's a good piece of knowledge for me that I never really thought of before.
Get on the train, Brett. 2-2. Get on that train. Yeah. They really are. Now, I don't say every single game, but man, there's more games than not in the Stanley Cup playoffs that I'm getting involved in the third period over. I'll tell you when you don't do it, Brett, with the third period overs, if it's a 3, 4, 5 goal margin, because it's less likely that there's that belief that the team is going to come back. But if you've got this, 2 goals, or if it's a 1-goal game or a 2-goal game, that team still thinks they can come back. And that's when you really see that angle really you can really capitalize on it, at that point and be able to bet some of those third period overs. And again, they have been a great meal ticket of sorts for us here on this show for years, no doubt about it. All right, next game we've got, it's Washington and Florida. Game 2 of this series, we've got Florida rather, minus 275. Home favorites here in this one, plus 225 for the Capitals, who took game 1 in the other night. The total 6.5 here, which is a juice to the over right now, pretty much across the board. I think Florida does bounce back here. Now, I'm on Florida in a bunch of different ways. I'm not really panicking about this team just yet. I think we're in a situation right here where we're going to end up seeing their best tonight after game one. Look, we're also going to find out something about Andrew Burnett. He's pretty young still in terms of an NHL coach. Let's see what he's got in him, too, after a tough game one. But Washington flat out beat Florida and was better than Florida. There was nothing at all fraudulent about the Capitals winning game one. They were flat out better than Florida. But now I expect the Panthers to bounce back here. If you'll remember, I think they lost game one to Tampa last year, and then game two, they had a big effort. And they ended up tying that series up. I think you're going to see something similar here. I'm going to dare the Washington Capitals and Vitek Vanacek in particular, who's been prone to some inconsistencies, up one game, down the next throughout the course of the season, to play well again. So I'm going to look at Florida here in a first period situation. Again, you can get pretty good price with them in terms of first period in this game tonight against the Capitals, looking at around -0.5 at +115, +120. I think that's a good way to look. That Panthers, after the bad start, when they weren't ready to go and they take two penalties in the first 5 minutes, they go down 5-on-3 and it costs them. Washington gets the first goal of the series on that. I think there's an emphasis and an onus on Florida. Be ready from puck drop, be strong in the first 20 minutes. So I like that first period. I'll probably end up back on the Florida team total as well in this hockey game tonight. I think that's probably worth a look. You can get the team total for Florida. It's a good plus price, actually, 4.5 at around +130. And I'm going to come back to the over 6.5 one more time, which was a frustrating loss in game one. It ended up 4-2. We did hit the live over. I talked about third period overs, Brett. We hit a live over and a third period over in that game, Washington, Florida, game one, and it cashed. Over 5.5 live after the second period it got there. So just another example of those third period overs being great bets. So that's my three looks there. Florida first period, Florida team total over, and over 6.5 for the game. Props, Huberdeau, shots on goal, Huberdeau goal scorer prop. I think he's someone that's going to maybe have a big night for the Panthers tonight. I think Marchment now, after a very quiet by his standards game one, he steps up. And, of course, if it's going to be led by anybody, it's going to be Barkov. So you can't argue with maybe looking at some of his props tonight either. Brett, what do you think here, Washington, Florida?
I like the over in this game. I think we're going to see goals tonight. That's Florida's high offense. I think they're going to be coming back, but Washington can still score. So, over 6.5 for sure. The other one that I like, I think they're both going to come out hot in the first for both teams to score at least one in the first. It's plus 120 right now. I like that bet as well.
Yeah, I might bet that too. I took it the other night.
Yeah, I think Florida's going to come out hot. They're going to score, and I see Washington scoring one in the first as well. So kind of opposite of the Rangers-Penguins game, where I think it's going to start really slow and methodical. I think this game will start with a lot of offense early, and probably won't see them settle until the second period. So I think they're probably the polar opposite game from the Rangers-Penguins game.
Yeah, that's an interesting emotional angle there, Chester Cat, with TJ Oshie props, because his dad passed away about a year ago to the day. Is there going to be, a little bit of a, ode to his father tonight, a big effort from Oshie. That's not a bad consideration. Sometimes that's how it works with players. Just that extra little, hey, remembering your father on a day like this. Yeah, there definitely could be something to that. I would stick to Connor Sheary. Connor Sheary had chances too in the game the other night. So, and again, he's playing those bigger minutes now for the Capitals as well. I still think you're going to get good value with Sheary for Washington tonight. Andrew, what do you like here?
Yeah, I like the over 6.5. I expect goals. I think, like Brett said, I think in games that we see Florida win, they're going to be high scoring. If you would have told me last game that Washington scored 4, I probably would have sold my car and bet the over in that game even higher.
Exactly. Washington scores 4, it stays under.
Yeah,
that was very
the fact that Florida gets 2. I mean, in the playoffs, sometimes you got to stick to your guns. You hear a lot about it in baseball handicapping, right? Like it's a series of 3 or 4 games. Somebody loses a tough bet on the first game of the series on one team, and they just don't go back to them, and that team wins the series 3-1 or 2-1. Point being is this is the same bet I had last game, but I'm going to go right back to it. I think that Florida's a good team for props tonight, but I'm going to just for now look towards the first period puck line for Florida and the full game over 6.5. Try and make some money on kind of the side and total, which is something I don't love to do always, but I guess it's just a kind of first period. And I apologize, Ian, if you did mention it there, but Tom Wilson has been announced officially out of this game, which should shift things around a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be, he was ruled out. There was pretty much doubtful as of yesterday that he was going to play, but yeah, definitely confirmed out right now for the Capitals. So
what do you guys think of over 1.5 goals first period for the Panthers? I'm seeing at one of my books at plus 180 for that.
I like that. I've done that before with teams that are really, really, you think they're going to have a big push early in the game, first 20 minutes, and you would think from Florida you'll see that. And Washington's the kind of defensive shakiness to them with Vanacek as well, that if Florida's really, really dialed in early, they could hit 2 goals in the first period. I think at that price, it's worth a look. It's worth some kind of flyer.
Yeah.
I've done that before. That's team total, by the way. Florida Panthers over 1.5 plus 180 is what you can get with that in some spots. So that's not a bad look in my opinion at all. All right, Western Conference now. First round, game 2, Nashville Predators, Colorado Avalanche. We got Colorado minus 360, home favorites, 6.5 the total. This was a game that just treated me extremely well the other night in game 1 on Tuesday night. Colorado first period puck line, team total over, which cashed in the first period when it was 5-0, and also the full game over in that game. And I'm pretty much thinking of the exact same 3 bets here, with maybe a little bit less of a, less of a liking, if you will, for the first period, because I would expect Nashville, after kind of being embarrassed in game 1, to put up some kind of major effort in game 1, in the first period tonight here in game 2. I would expect that from them after, just getting absolutely throttled in the first period the other night en route to that 7-2 loss and beatdown at the hands of the Avs. But at the end of the day, I don't trust their defense, which hasn't been good for a while. You go back, you look at Nashville down the stretch, guys. They gave up a 6 spot to the Lightning, 5 to the Wild, 5 to the Flames, 4 to the Avs in the regular season, 5 to Arizona in coughing up that 4-0 lead against the Coyotes, and then 7 against Colorado in game 1 of this series. They have not been good defensively. I love the season Roman Yossi's had. I think Ekholm's a good veteran defenseman. I would honestly, guys, and Brett, when you talk about this game, you can give your opinion. I would honestly pass on the other defensemen on this team, quite honestly. I mean, Fabro's got some bright moments, but he's kind of up and down. You look at the rest of them, Alex Carrier, Borowiecki's a bit of a plodding defenseman. They've got some issues at the back, and we have seen that here exploited by a speed team like Colorado with 4 lines of forward depth that they just roll out there, and every single blue line can fly, can flat out skate, mobile as all get out, and I think Nashville's having a hard time coping with that. Certainly they did in game 1, and to make it matters worse with the blue line struggles, you have goaltending you just can't hang your hat on at this point. Big Siv Dave was a disaster in game 1. 5 goals allowed. He was yanked. And for John Hines, he's in a spot where he's got to go with the younger kid, Connor Ingram, tonight, which is exactly what he's going to do, and just hope that he's a little bit better than Riddick was. But at the same time, he needs help from his defensemen. And I'm not confident that they're going to give him that help, because this is 2 weeks straight of pretty poor defending from the Nashville Predators on the blue line. So I'm thinking of the same bets. Colorado first period puck line, but I like more the team total again, over 4.5. I think it's going to be difficult to keep this team below 5 goals, because Nashville's just yielding 5, it seems, with regularity right now. And I'm also back to the full game over here in this game one more time. Just don't trust the defensive play or the goaltending of the Nashville Predators right now. Could it be better with Ingram compared to Riddick? Yeah, but still probably need to see it before I believe it. Andrew, what do you think here? Game 2, Nashville, Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, when you see a field goal in the first 3 minutes and a touchdown to end the game, you wouldn't think it's the first round of the playoffs. That's for sure. I'll say, I think I mentioned on the last show, a prop that I like once again tonight is Devon Toews to get a point. He's listed minus 125 tonight at my book. It was minus 110 last game. You're playing with Makar. You're playing with some of the best forwards in the team always out there. And the argument I've heard from people making the lines and stuff is that, hey, he's out there with Makar. He's out there with these guys. He's a defensive defenseman. He's not someone that carries the puck. But when you're asking someone to get a point, it's not a primary assist. It could be a secondary assist, touch the puck, before someone does something crazy, and you get rewarded with an assist. And Tays had a great game. I believe he scored one himself last game, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's a great prop to look at. And I also like the first period, no goal, 10 minutes. And I know that's quite gutty. And I haven't been betting those quite often, but I think we'll see a low scoring start. And then I think it's going to open up a little bit. We're going to get the best possible effort out of the Nashville Predators in 10 minutes. But it's kind of like what you say in basketball handicapping. The game's played in 60 minutes, not 10 or 20. So the best effort we're going to get out of Nashville is early in the game. I just don't think they'll be able to sustain whatever they throw at Colorado. So I think it's a good in-game opportunity, a good in-game bet. I think Colorado will get theirs in the first period, but I just don't think it'll be 3 minutes in, 3 goals again in this game here.
No, exactly.
And young goaltender theory as well. I mean, young goalie in there.
Yep.
Let's protect him. Let's protect don't try and play Colorado's type of hockey. I think Colorado's way better than Toronto, but Toronto's a great team. And look how they played in game 1. Tampa Bay slowed things down and things were a little bit different. Nashville has to play Nashville hockey. They can't play Colorado hockey or they're going to get swept and it's going to be bad.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be interesting to see if they can make that adjustment, which I know they're going to try to, really button it up. And I'm sure John Hines, the head coach, is going to tell them that. But at the same time, this blue line has now shown you pretty clearly on display that they have not been adequate defensively for now a solid week or two. This was a problem at the end of the regular season, and it's carried over to game 1 of this series. And then you've got the young goalie on the road in a tough environment in net. So, it's a big task for Nashville. We'll see if they're up for it. For props, I'm going back to the well with Big Val for Colorado, Valeri Nichushkin on that top line. This has been a prop cash cow for me, guys. And I know Brett dabbles with player props and shots on goal and goal score props and points as well. This guy has been an absolute gold mine of profit since he got moved up to the top line, and he's playing there with Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen. Nichushkin's just been a phenomenal prop bet repeatedly now for weeks. Lekkonen's worth a look, potentially as well on the second line, in my opinion. For Nashville, I do think they're going to chip in a little bit offensively. I still think when you look at the line combinations tonight, there's been some changes. We've got Luke Kunin moving up to the second line. All right, there's one of those great situations. This has been a third or fourth liner for Nashville the last several games, and he's on the second line, it looks like, based on the morning skate line combos. Kunin with Johansson and Tomasino looks to be the second line tonight for Nashville. Forsberg, Granlund, and Duchesne still the top line. So that means Luke Kunin, if you can find props on him, they're going to have some value. More ice time up in the lineup, second line. Let me see if he's going to get power play minutes tonight for Nashville. Let me see. It doesn't look like it. They don't have him on power play 1 or power play 2, but he will be on the second line, it looks like, tonight. Multiple sites have him up there. I think Daily Faceoff does. RotoWire does. That's a positive expectation prop situation then. Again, when you talk about player moving up the lineup, and you're going to see that with Kunin tonight playing with Johansson and Tomasino. So keep an eye on that. Brett, what do you like here tonight? Nashville, Colorado.
Yeah, and Colorado's going to put up quite a few again tonight, but I think Nashville's going to be a little bit more competitive. So I see the over hitting in this game for sure. Going to the prop bets on players, Nathan McKinnon over 1.5 points is plus 140. I like that. I think if they put up, 5 or 6 goals, he's going to have a very good shot at 2 points. I do think Nashville's going to put up some goals tonight. I like Ryan Johansson at over half a point at plus 110. So I think plus money on him. He's the guy that has to get moving for them if they're going to have any chance to make the game competitive. So I like both of those bets at plus money. Like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of goals tonight. So I think I'll stick with those for now.
1 assist for Johansson in game 1, but no shots on goal. So you would think, do you like those prop situations, Brett, where it's not so much I want to bet the player that had the big game the previous game, maybe you don't look at that much so much as to the player maybe that struggled the last game, but he's a quality player, and he's got to elevate his game and his performance in a spot like this. It's kind of like that's where you're going with Johansson and that's something maybe you look for with the player props. Not so much the guy that had the big game the previous game, the guy that maybe underachieved and needs to step up the next game.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think obviously guys ride streaks in the NHL, so you're looking at a few guys that have had big games and wanting to ride them, but then there's also guys that maybe didn't play well, but over the history of their career have been point producers. And he's a guy that he had a bounce back year this year, and at times in his career he's been able to light it up. So if I can see him at plus money in a big game that his team needs to win, he's a guy that I'm willing to put it on, because like I said, if he doesn't perform tonight, odds are they get pumped again, and we're looking at pretty close to winding down the series already. So I expect a bounce back from him, and a very good chance that he's going to put some points up.
All right. Yeah, excellent stuff. All right. We go to the final game now of this Thursday night NHL card. Western Conference first round game 2, Dallas Stars versus Calgary Flames. Calgary minus 240 home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. We asked our guest Danny Ehrman yesterday, did this game put you to sleep? He actually admitted, for 5-10 minutes, I did fall asleep watching this game, game 1 the other night. How about you, Brett? Were you starting to catch some flies during this game at any point?
Yeah, it was tough to grind out the third period on this one. There's lots of games like that in the playoffs too. As many games we see that are exciting, there is games that play like this, and I think this is how Dallas wants to play. So unfortunately, this might be what a lot of this series looks like. At least I think that I think tonight's going to be another pretty sleepy, quiet game. I personally like the under in this one, even though it's only 5.5. I don't see us hitting that number. Daryl Sutter's pretty content with just winning, however that happens. And if that's 1-0 again tonight, I don't think he's going to be too upset with it. Calgary's got a solid team, unbelievable goalie. So I could see us settling into another really quiet, sleepy game tonight.
I actually sprinkled.
Ian, I gotta say, I figured you must have loved Sutter's quote after the game. When I could just picture you loving it. Well, Coach, what did you think about Matthew Tkachuk being involved in a fight there? Do you mind that? Oh yeah, it's the playoffs. It's playoff hockey.
I'd rather him do it than not.
Yeah. He said I would rather him do that.
Yeah, of course. But Sutter loves that shit. He always has. He wants his teams to engage physically. It's always been that way for 30 years. I remember watching in an 8-year-old, with my dad. We would end up watching. I was like 93, Chicago and Toronto in the playoffs, or 94 it was. He was coaching the Blackhawks, Daryl Sutter. That's how long I've seen him coaching.
How old
in the
is he,
National
guys?
Hockey League. Well, he's in his late 60s now, Daryl. I'm pretty sure, right? That's around the age he is. So he's been around. He's one of those old school coaches. There's not many left, but he's one of them, where there's an era where defense and tight checking and winning a game 2-1 was perfectly okay.
I heard a story today about Sutter where apparently they had a news camera and the team videographer interview people go to his ranch in Alberta, and they were going to do a piece on him, a nice story on him and stuff. And apparently it was just very awkward. Like he was giving like one-word answers, wasn't very comfortable on camera, and I guess the team wasn't just getting what they wanted out of it. So the second they took the lights off and the cameras off and all the microphones away, he says, well, now that that's over, come on in for a drink. I'll show you my place. And apparently they had a great time. Like apparently he turned into a whole new person once the camera was off. So from what I've heard, like he's actually
like a character or persona that he puts on a little bit, not fully, but a little bit.
He also just might be shyer than we think, or might not like the media,
Yeah. He just, he keeps it very straight, cut and dried. Like there's no bullshitting. And just, this is the way it is. And he comes right out there and says it, the way he thinks. And if you don't like it, tough shit. That's Daryl Sutter's way of going about it with the press conference. Like the best line that's still to this day. What did you say to your team after the game? It was a bad game for the Kings. It was during their cup run. Daryl, after a game like that, what do you say to your team? Flight at 11. Yeah. Yeah. Flight at 11. Just beautiful. Just a great response. But that's Daryl Sutter. I like your under. Brett, you mentioned it, that you like the under in this game. When you look at it, Dallas doesn't want to open things up. because they're just not one of those teams that's going to win a lot of 5-4 games. And Calgary, Daryl Sutter has already said on record he's okay with a 1-0, 2-1 win in the playoffs. He's perfectly okay with that. So I want no part of an over in this game. I like, what I like? I like Calgary correct score first period. Calgary 1-0 at plus 375. I think that's good. That's the way it was in game one. I could see that tonight where they get that first goal and then they, again, look maybe defense first, especially at playoff time. That's what Sutter wants them to do. So that Calgary 1-0 lead after the first period, plus 375 is something I've put a couple of bucks on. And as far as the side and the total goes tonight, I like Calgary in regulation. I do like them in regulation here, like the other night, which you can get at minus 140, minus 145. But I also like a sprinkle on the draw for a smaller bet. And you can get that at plus 325. But in some spots, if you shop around, you can get up to plus 365 with the draw in this game. And basically my strategy is if Calgary wins in regulation, I'm going to be profitable in this game. If the game goes to overtime or a shootout, regardless of who wins, or not a shootout, just overtime, I'll be profitable because plus 365 will end up being more of a profit for me to wipe out the Calgary bet. So that's the way I'm going about it. Calgary in regulation for a bigger bet, a little smaller bet on the draw, plus 365. And if one of those hits, it's profit for me. The only thing that would get me in this game is Dallas winning in regulation. And I just don't see that happening. I don't. So that's the way I'm approaching it. It's an interesting approach. It's a unique approach, but I think it's a sound one, a logical one. So Calgary in regulation for a little bit bigger bet, minus 140, and then that draw at plus 365. If I win one of those comes through for me, it'll be profit. So that's the way I'm going about it here with Stars and Flames. I thought the Stars didn't do that bad last night, or game one defensively. They just didn't generate much. 16 shots, in 3 periods. It's just, not going to cut it. And it's going to be tough to put the puck in the net when that's all you're getting in terms of looks and shots at the opposing goal. So, Brett, just wrap up what you liked on this game, Dallas-Calgary.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to stick with the low-scoring game. For both teams to score 2 or more, it's plus 105 for a no. I don't think both are going to score more than 2 or 2. I don't think both teams are going to score 2. Then I like time of first score. No score before 9:30 of the first period is plus 110. I think it's going to start pretty quiet again. I like your exact score of Calgary 1-0 in the first, but I think it's going to be later in the period. I think it's the trend has been set that this is going to be a patient, low-scoring series, and I think we're going to see that continue. I think both teams are comfortable with that, so kind of be sticking with the very low-scoring game and some props that are going that way, and maybe if there is a goal early, that might bump the total up for the over, and then I'll live game the under on that. So.
All right, great stuff. That's a great approach, I think, with the first 10 minutes, no goal, and both teams not to score 2 goals or more in this game. That's at a plus price. That's not a bad way to go about it. I wanted to consider as well a scoreless first period for that first period correct score, but that's only plus 180, believe it or not. 0-0 is only plus 180 for first period correct score. So that's why I like the Calgary 1-0, because I think that's got as good of a chance, and it's a much better price, plus 375. So that's why I ended up going in that direction. By the way, someone in the chat earlier said, thanks, Brett, for the Stamkos call last week on the show with Tampa. Remember, he was trying to get 40 goals, right? And he ended at the milestone. You were all over those milestones. Those bunch of these players needed a big milestone number on the show.
Made up for my Bruins pick.
Yeah.
I had that too, brother. It's tough when the information comes out late, though.
Yeah.
And of course, the critics come out and complain, what are you guys doing picking the Bruins? And you've not realized that at the time, everybody was going to play in that game that night. And then we find out the rug gets pulled out from under us 2 hours later that they were sitting everybody. It is what it is. Welcome to betting final day of the regular season. It happens. Andrew, what do you like here? Dallas, Calgary.
Yeah, I hate being the contrarian. I'm not someone that loves to be the contrarian opinion, but I think there were like 30 penalty minutes each or 30 to 20 or something insane. And yet these teams still didn't have that high of shot counts, which is quite ridiculous. There's a couple series where I've said this, and St. Louis and Minnesota yesterday was one of the ones I said it with. Obviously, there's going to be more scoring in that series, but when you see a lot of penalties in one game, what is there for us to think that it might not happen again? Like what really between one game to the next, unless coaches are saying, a million things in the locker room, what's going to happen from one game to the next where there's not going to be that same level of physicality, chippiness, dirtiness? You said it yourself, Ian. Sutter likes his players to play that way. And when you do, you hit late, you get into scuffles after the whistle, all that stuff. And I think that was Dallas's game to win. Like you guys both said it, a 1-0 game was their game to win. I think Calgary scores 3 or 4 tonight. And if they do, I'm relying on Dallas to get me 1 or 2 for me to get over 5.5. So a little bit of a contrarian opinion, but I think that that was the game for Dallas to win, a 1-0 game. And with all the talent that Calgary has, I mean, I guess I could easily take the puck line just so I'm not going against you guys and just hope that Calgary wins without going over 5.5.
Go against us. It's great. This is the playoffs.
Of course. That's how that's
tough. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. We all don't plan our picks out and tell each other before the show starts, which makes it fun. The funny thing is I was on a show earlier today and I was the third person to talk. And so it was the exact same thing. And, but yeah, I just think we're going to see.
I'm trying to vary it up. You and then Brett and then you.
For sure. Yeah, of course. But yeah, I expect some goals. But to Brett's point, I think we could see a low scoring start. But what a job from Dallas to contain the offensive firepower of the Flames, But again, you guys saw those shot counts. Are we going to see the shot counts we saw in game 1 and game 2? Are we going to see the power play conversion rates that we saw in game 1 move into game 2 and be the exact same? I think it was 0 for 5 and 1 for 5 or something of that nature. So I'm expecting something a little bit different.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. By the way, the expected goals in game 1, really remarkable. I mean, 0.87 to 0.77. That's
yeah.
It's like they didn't even play a hockey game. I mean, just barely anything that was expected. Nothing was really expected to go in the net in that game based on that. It's an incredibly low number for a 60-minute game. 0.87 to 0.77 expected goals margin in that game in favor of Calgary, and just barely in favor of Calgary. So Dallas didn't play that poorly in that game, but obviously no offense to be had. So going a little bit off the a little bit different, over 5.5 here, Dallas and Calgary. We'll see how it plays out. For props, by the way, for Calgary, I'm sticking to Lindholm. This guy is just producing right now. He gets the power play goal in game 1. He had 2 shots on goal. He's got goals in 4 of the last 5 games. He's got 2, 3, 4, 5 points in the last 5 games as well for the Flames. I think Lindholm's a good prop. And if you're going to go for value, Dylan Dubé, because he produced down the stretch. He's produced in the playoffs before the last couple years. Dylan Dubé and Blake Coleman as well. Even though he was quiet in game 1, this is a guy that elevates his game at playoff time. Blake Coleman's a good value-laden bargain bin prop player for the Calgary Flames, in my opinion, because we know he can really step up at playoff time. All right, great show and great stuff with both Andrew McGinnis and our guest, Brett McLean. We will wrap it up in a few minutes with best bets. Hit the like button on if you haven't done so already. And a reminder about DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets if they win. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state, you can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Hockey Contest. DraftKings giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up for an account, use the promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NHL team. Get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app. Sign up for an account. Use the promo code THPN. All right, it is that time. Best bets. We got a big encore to try to follow because we collectively as a group on this show, including our guest Danny Ehrman, we absolutely killed it yesterday. It's a phenomenal betting day Big profits all around. We'll see if we can deliver it again tonight. Andrew, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Give me the over. When we see the Florida Panthers and Washington Capitals go head to head, I mentioned it earlier. Washington scored 4 in the first one, and the total did not go over, which was shocking to me. But I feel like we'll get a better effort out of Florida tonight. Playoffs are started. They got to wake up. Game 1 is over with. They'll learn from it. Little wake up call, little reality check. I think over 6.5 to play here, Florida and Washington.
All right, there it is. Washington, Florida, over 6.5. Best bet for Thursday for Andrew McGinnis and Brett. Great to have you back again, as always, on the show. What do you like, Brett, tonight for best bet?
I'm going to stick to the same game. I like both teams to score at least one goal in the first period, plus 120. I think Florida and Washington are going to come out buzzing. I think we're going to see a lot of goals early. So I really like this bet.
And I cashed with that same bet, Brett, in game 1 with the Capitals and the Panthers. The only concern is Florida's just so on their game early that they shut out Washington maybe in the first period. But even then, Florida's been known to give up a lot of goals in the first period. So I still think it's worth a look. Washington, Florida, both teams to score, plus 125. BetMGM usually has that first period, both teams to score at a higher, an even better price. So make sure you shop around. There's a lot of books that have that, and make sure you see if you can get the best price. But at a plus price, first period, both teams to score for Brett McLean with his best bet, Washington and Florida. My best bet here for this card tonight, I'm going to go with the Nashville, Colorado over one more time at 6.5. I like it. I think it's a situation where, again, I'm going to dare Nashville to be better defensively and in goal. I'm not necessarily sure that's something that they're capable of doing. And I think Nashville, though, with the 1-0 deficit, you'll see them offensively chip in. They can score. That's not a problem. It's been keeping the puck out of their own nets. So we'll go right back. It was a best bet winner for me on Tuesday night, and hopefully it is once again tonight. Nashville, Colorado, over 6.5 in game 2. That'll be my best bet for this Thursday NHL card. All right, that's a wrap for this Thursday edition. Thanks to everyone for joining us. And a reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. Stephen Fournier, our guest tomorrow, on the Friday edition of the Ice Guys. So make sure you join us for that. For Andrew McGinnis and Brett McLean, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on Friday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.